I'm Ed. My best friend Nate invited us to his 16th birthday party. The party was happening at his dad's luxurious farmhouse. Being the richest kid in school, Nate was the star of high school. Even though he had everything, he lacked one thing for sure. It was manners. He never hesitated for a second before insulting someone. The next day at the party, I was enjoying free booze and snacks when Nate came up to me. We were joking around when a short, thin-built waiter came to us with mocktails. We both grabbed one each. I watched him taking just one sip, and then he smashed the glass on the floor. Everyone stopped and turned their heads at us. The waiter was shocked and nervous. "Is that not to your liking, sir?" Nate spat on him, yelling, "You call this a drink? I said to add chia seeds and mint! Bloody moron can't even do a job well!" The drinks were fine, to be honest, but it's Nate. Creating a scene is his hobby. The waiter cleaned the floor and left to get Nate's drink. Half an hour later, he came back with exactly what Nate asked for. Nate again took a sip of it, and this time he splashed it on the poor waiter. He even laughed at this cruel amusement. Everyone else laughed with him too. I stood on the side, feeling really bad for the guy. The waiter wiped his face and asked, "Why did you do that?" Nate grabbed him by the collar and muttered, "Because my daddy paid for your uniform. Now get lost!" The waiter stood there for a minute, staring at Nate with bloodshot eyes. I could tell something snapped in him, but he didn't give any reaction. Left quietly like the first time. Nate went back to partying. We had cake and everyone started to leave one by one. I was thinking to go home as well because I was pissed off at him too. I decided I'll avoid him from now on because having money doesn't give you the right to treat people like crap. Seeing me get up to leave, Nate said, "Oh, come now, you have to stay here tonight. Gina and Priya's staying back too." He smirked as he knew I had a crush on Priya. I saw Priya coming out of the changing room in her pink swimsuit, and I thought, well, I did decide to ignore Nate from tomorrow. It was around midnight, and just the four of us were hanging in the pool. I was enjoying myself when my eyes caught something behind a bush. That same waiter was crouched down behind a bush and watching us. He watched us for a minute straight, then vanished into the darkness. I was thinking of telling Nate about this, but by the time Nate and Gina had started to play the holding breath underwater game. Gina stayed for a few seconds, then came out, gasping. Priya laughed and cheered. I refused to play because all I could think about was, where did that waiter go? I watched Nate counting to 5 and then diving underwater. 5 seconds went by. 10 seconds went by. 30 seconds went by, but Nate still didn't come up. Now, when a minute went by and Nate still didn't show, we all got very worried. Suddenly, the water in the pool started to move, like it was put into draining mode. I watched Gina dipping into the pool and then resurfacing with a blood-curdling scream.
"Oh God! He's stuck! He's drowning!"
I dived in and saw a horrible sight. Nate was pinned to the drain by its powerful suction. He was screaming, but only air bubbles came out of his mouth. His hands were desperately searching for something to hold, but he could barely move his upper body. Seeing me, his eyes widened more in hope. I came up screaming, "Everyone get out of this pool! Call the security!" and went back in to save Nate. I grabbed his hand and started to pull. But the force of the suction was relentless. Nate's eyes were wide with terror, pleading with me. His fingers clawed at mine, slipping slightly with every desperate tug. The water around us churned violently, creating a current that made it nearly impossible to stay steady. I kicked my legs with all my strength, trying to create momentum, but it was like fighting against a steel grip. I surfaced briefly, gasping for air. Gina was sobbing hysterically, and Priya was frantically shouting for help. 2 men in security uniforms came running toward the pool, one of them already pulling out a rescue hook. Without wasting another second, I dived back down. Nate's movements were getting weaker. His eyes, once wide with panic, were now starting to flutter. His face was turning pale, his lips tinged with blue. I hooked my arms under his and pushed against the pool floor with all my strength. Just as my lungs screamed for air, the security guard yanked Nate's legs with the hook, and with one final heave, we freed him from the drain's grip. We burst to the surface, both of us coughing and gasping. Nate clung to me weakly, his chest heaving, but he made it out alive. We were carried out of the pool by the security. Nate was rushed to the hospital for breathing troubles. I too spent the night at the hospital with him. When Nate's father asked the security about the draining process starting up on its own, no one could come up with a possible explanation. But I knew it was the waiter, yet I stayed quiet about it. After that incident, Nate became one of my best friends. He helped me get into an Ivy League college, and his father paid for my fees. They told my parents that I saved Nate, so it's very little what they're doing for me. The waiter still works at Nate's father's estate. No one seemed to have a clue about what he did.